So this week's lesson is about Poseidon. Everyone talks about Zeus being a mega fuckboy, but no one ever talks about how Poseidon was just as bad, if not worse. It's been a while since we went to the Pylos, but since we were looking for the spearhead of Poseidon, this episode we'll be talking about him. So, who was Poseidon? Poseidon was the god of seas, earthquakes, and horses, which is a little weirder compared to the rest of them. Like, seas, earthquakes, sure, that makes sense. But why horses? One of the stories, as I said, with Athena and the olive tree, is the first horse was seen as he summoned it from the seas to create the spring. He's also might be the god of horses because he is associated with the same traits as wild horses were: freedom, power, unrestrained forces of nature. Also, in one tale, he was not eaten by Kronos like the rest of them were, but was actually hidden away among the foals as Rhea presented Kronos with a horse to eat instead, and he just believed her that she birthed a horse. Oh honey, here, I want to give you our son that I birthed. It's a horse, unfortunately. I know it's a little weird, but you trust me, don't you? Haha, of course, honey, let me have it. Oh. That's exactly what happened, word for word. So Poseidon was married to Amphitrite, the queen of the seas and daughter of Nereus. The two together had their son, Triton. Poseidon was often depicted as wearing hardly anything at all. At most, a robe sometimes just over his arm, not even across his waist, and wielding a trident. He was also occasionally depicted wearing a crown of fresh celery. Not entirely sure why, but whatever. We're not going to judge him too much. Whatever he wants. So that trident that he is seen with was actually originally forged by the Cyclops, the ones who were cast away by their father Kronos, because they wanted to get revenge on him for casting them into the pits of Tartarus. So they were like, you know what? Here you go, bro. You can have this awesome trident that we made specifically to kill our dad. Man, thanks, bros. I've always got my back. Poseidon. This very quickly became Poseidon. I tried to avoid it, but it didn't work. So yeah, the Cyclops made his trident. He's also said to be the most bad-tempered and grumpy among the gods, reflecting the ocean's temperamental nature. His main places of worship were Pylos and Thebes, though he was renowned in Athens and Sunion as well. There's even a temple to Poseidon that overlooks the cliff as a sign of safe travels for sailors out in Cape Sunion. There's a little temple there. Remember that. According to Hippocrates, the medicine guy, you know him. Oh, I hope you know him. Hippocratic Oath. Am I just a nerd? Maybe. So Hippocrates, Poseidon to him was actually to blame for some types of epilepsy, as he believed that Poseidon was also responsible for mental disturbances. What other mental disturbances? No idea. I couldn't find it. Maybe other neurological issues like epilepsy? I don't know. All I know is that Hippocrates blamed Poseidon for epilepsy. Asshole, can't believe he did that. When he goes to bed, he snores sight. You're banned. I don't care if you're one of my mods, you're banned. Get out. Leave. Some major stories about Poseidon. As I've already talked about the one with Athena and the olive tree, I'm not covering that again. Go watch the other Terra Teaches. Link here. Right here. It's there, right, ATAC? So Poseidon actually originally sided with the Greeks during the Trojan War, which we'll get to talk about later, guys. Don't worry. Hold your horses, the Poseidon will get you. Just calm down. We'll get to the Trojan War later. He actually changed who he supported because of Agamemnon, which is another one that we'll talk about later. Just hold on. Just wait. But because of his arrogance and the mistreatment of Achilles, Poseidon, because he valued honor and respect above all else, was like, Agamemnon, you're a little bitch. You know what? I'm no longer on your side. I'm joining the enemy team. He went to the dark side just because Agamemnon was being a little whiny bitch and made Achilles sad. That's all it was. Based. So he actually caused most of the problems in the Odyssey due to this changing of sides, but we'll get there. We don't talk about the Odyssey yet. Just hold on. We'll get there. If I start talking about the Odyssey now, I won't shut up for 2.5 hours, and we'll all be miserable by the end of it. We gotta wait. Gotta wait for the Odyssey. We'll also talk a little bit more about this, but Poseidon is also the reason we even have the Minotaur. He sent King Minos a white bull to legitimize his rule, and Minos was supposed to sacrifice it to Poseidon in his honor, but Minos went, you know what? This thing's too pretty. I'm gonna keep this one for myself. I'll sacrifice some other bull. He won't tell the difference. He won't know. But Poseidon did, in fact, know the difference. And he was angered by the betrayal and made Minos' wife fall in love with the bull, resulting in the birth of the Minotaur. More on him later. We'll be back to Minos, the Minotaur, and all of that. We'll be back to that. Just So hold on, chat. Another story involving Troy. At some point, Poseidon was sent to Troy as punishment for aiding Hera in her plot to overthrow him. Poseidon, along with Apollo, went to Troy and ended up helping build the great walls surrounding it. Poseidon was considered a builder himself, able to shape many things just as water can, and the walls were tall and strong. However, King decided, nah, I'm not gonna pay for that. You guys, good thank you for the walls, but not getting a penny out of me. They're already built. What you gonna do? You can't do shit, bitch. And Poseidon was like, watch me, and sent a giant sea monster to ravage the coast of Troy. This monster was later killed by Hercules because Hercules was literally everywhere, but we'll get to him. He can wait. It's not his turn yet. So Poseidon had a few cities that he was worshipped in, and also a few that he just traded off to the other gods for no real reason. He fought with a lot of different gods or a lot of different cities, not just Athens. So here's a list of them. Corinth itself was actually split between Helios and Poseidon, with Poseidon getting the isthmus, the lower part near the ocean, and Helios getting the Acrocorinth, meaning the highest point. So the point closer to the sun was given to the god of the sun, and the lower area closer to the sea was given to the god of the seas. Makes sense, everyone's happy, no fighting, we appeased the gods, we got away with it this time. Then there was the island of Delos, which he gave to the goddess Leto. Goddess? Titan? I don't remember what the fuck she is. In exchange for the island of Calaria. Delos is very important. We'll get to a little bit more about Delos here in a bit. But remember, Delos is important. He also gave Delphi to Apollo. Everyone knows the Oracle of Delphi. Originally, that city belonged to Poseidon, but Poseidon gave it to Apollo in order to get the Cape Town of Tanaram. He also wanted to have Argos, which is Hera's sacred city, at one point, but the king decided, oh, I like Hera more, I'll give it to her, which made Poseidon pissed off because the gods are petty, you can't just pick one, this is an important lesson, we've learned this multiple times. So he sent a plague in his anger to take revenge. That's what the gods do. You don't choose one. I'm sorry to tell you. Listen, Corinth had it right. Splitting the town to give the gods exactly what they wanted. They had it right. They knew how to negotiate. They knew how to keep out of trouble, keep the heads down. Not Argos. Argos didn't know. So, as I said, Poseidon was actually just as much as a fuckboy of Zeus. So he had many lovers, both male and female, so we have our bisexual king right here. The first one that I've already mentioned is Queen Amphitrite. So King Amphitrite actually did not want to marry him originally. Amphitrite, in one account, decided that I don't want to marry Poseidon, so she decided to run off and hide with Atlas. Poseidon sent many animals to search for her, and a dolphin actually succeeded and convinced her to go back to marry him. Like, oh, Poseidon's a really great guy. He'll take good care of you. No, you get to be queen of the ocean. What's so bad about that? You should go do it. That dolphin was actually an important attendee to the wedding and was rewarded by Poseidon by being put along the stars, becoming the constellation Delphinus. In another version of this tale, the dolphin just snitched to Poseidon, and so he appeared and carried Queen Amphitrite off with him and married her against her will, but that's just how these tales go sometimes too. So he actually did have the hots for his wife's brother at the same time. Nereidus was a charioteer for Poseidon and faster than all marine creatures. It said that in one tale that Nereidus was one day transformed by Helios into a shellfish, though for an unknown reason. No one's really sure why Helios transformed him. Either Nereidus offended Helios and thus was transformed, or Helios and Poseidon were rivals in Nereidus' affection, and Helios wanted Nereidus among the stars and not the sea. Not sure why you'd make him a shellfish if you want him in the stars, but who am I to judge the gods? Who am I? Who do I think I am? The answer is Terra. I've been judging the gods this whole time. It was a prank? What, turning him into a shellfish? That could be it. It could just have been a prank. There's also a mortal woman whose name was Cleito. She lived on an isolated island, and Poseidon fell for her, making her a sanctuary just for her on that island, and fathered 5 sets of twins, including the king of Atlantis and 2 giants. Something about the seawater making them giants. I don't understand, but sure. I guess. It's ancient Greece. We don't play by any real rules. It's also said that Poseidon was the lover of a man named Pelops, who has an interesting story of his own, so I'll talk about him next Terra Teaches, actually. I've already written his segment. He's actually really interesting. And for some reason, he was also a lover of Patroclus? Yeah, like the same guy that Achilles was roommates with. Achilles' roommates apparently was also a lover of Poseidon. But I digress. According to new history written by Ptolemy Hephaestion, I probably fucked up saying that, I'm sorry. He was a lover of Poseidon back when Poseidon was first teaching Patroclus how to ride a horse. Sure, Patroclus just happens to get smooch from one of the gods and one of the most famous heroes ever. Sure, why not? Why not let him get all the bitches? Patroclus is pulling people left and right. That's how hot he is. That's how hot Patroclus is. Just remember that. Patroclus, smoking. If you make Patroclus any way that's not smoking, you're doing him wrong. You're doing my boy dirty. Since Poseidon had an insane amount of lovers, of course, as a result, he also had an insane amount of children. I did not list all of them because the list, we're gonna add it in post, scrolling down from the Wikipedia article here, but holy shit did he have a lot of children. He had a bunch. So I'm just gonna name a few of the notable ones, the ones that we kind of know the names of, ones that are relevant to my campaign, the only ones I care about. So first is Triton, son of Poseidon, prince and messenger of the seas. Nothing very exciting, he's the basic bitch. That's him in the picture here. Polyphemus, the Cyclops that is mentioned in the Odyssey. He's the son of Poseidon and Thusa, a daughter of the primordial sea god Phorcus. I just discovered these names today, the other day, I'm not gonna lie. But he's a Cyclops from the Odyssey, we'll talk about him later. We can wait, we've been over this. The Odyssey's there, it's approaching, and I'm scared of it. So, and then there's Pegasus and Cryosaur. Cryosaur actually appearing in the episode with Pylos. Sons of Poseidon and Medusa. It's also possible they're the sons of Perseus and Medusa, but we'll talk about that in a minute. These two are the winged horse and boar, having decided to sprung from Medusa's neck when she was beheaded. Pegasus went on to help Hercules, and Cryosaur went on to work for Ares. Hippothune was another son of Poseidon, this time being with Alope, a daughter of the king of Ulysses, the place that we went for Demeter's trial. He eventually became king himself, but not much is said about Hippothune other than he was worshipped for a while, and his own shrine was made as well. That's really the information I could find on this guy. Then there was Orion, son of Poseidon and Euryale, a daughter of King Minos. So grandson of King Minos, and son of Poseidon is Orion. Orion's story is better tied in with Artemis's, so we'll save him for when we talk about her. Theseus, we'll also talk more about Theseus and the Minotaur later. I know I keep saying we'll talk about them later, but we'll talk about them later. I have to keep things sorted, because if I delve too much into them now, I'll be on a tangent for a while. There's better places for these people. But Theseus, I will share one story, because this story is actually better shared here, as opposed to when I talk about Theseus later. Theseus first went to face the Minotaur, and ended up in Crete. King Minos refused to acknowledge that Theseus was a son of Poseidon, and decided to toss his ring into the sea, telling Theseus, "Go get it!" Like, he'll never be able to get that ring. It's too far deep down. It's gone. So Theseus looked at the king like, "You think I can't go get that? Watch this." Jumped off the giant-ass cliff, just dove in, got guided by some dolphins down to the house of his dad under the waters with Antrite. He had a quick dinner with his dad and stepmom, and just got the ring and a purple cloak from them, and turned around, swam back up. But they'll span a few minutes. And then this is an interesting one, and one that I actually did not know was technically a child of Poseidon. In fact, these next two are both children of Poseidon that I did not realize were children of Poseidon. It makes sense. So first we have Charybdis, daughter of Poseidon and Gaia, the earth itself. It says she served her father loyally as he tried to overtake Zeus, swallowing up some of the land to take his domain. And so Zeus struck her with a lightning bolt and banished her to deep beneath the seas. In some tales instead, she was banished for stealing oxen from Hercules, but either way, the sea monster that famous in the Odyssey is a child of Poseidon. And so is her counterpart, Scylla. Child of... okay. This one changes a lot, actually. In some tellings, some being named Cratius, who is only mentioned as Scylla's mother, and no other information is given on her. And either Triton, Poseidon, or Phorcus. One of the sea gods did it. We don't know which sea god's responsible, but it's one of them. It's fucking one of yous. However, Cratius is also a possible name for Hecate, which would also make sense for Scylla's mom, not gonna lie. Some have Scylla being as a child of Lamia or a descendant of Echidna, but we can just list her as a child of Poseidon for this. Just easy. We got a Putt tries to drink Odysseus. I forgot that's how I described that. So after these two, we get back to some more normaler children of Poseidon. Nauplius is the son of Amymone and a princess of Libya. She became famous as a navigator and discovered Ursa Major. there was Amykos and Mygdon, sons of Poseidon and Melia, who was a nymph. These two both became kings of the Berbices. Take a second. Learn to read. Don't be like me. Learn to read. Reading's important. It will help you someday. It can't save me anymore. It's too late for me, but there's hope for you yet. Group of people way to the west, past Troy, who were eventually killed either by Hercules or Castor and Pollux combined into Polydeuces. More on them later. Amykos was said to challenge all who angered him to a wrestling contest as a way to straight up kill them. He was defeated by Polydeuces after challenging the Argonauts when they passed through. Also, Plato claimed he was a descendant of Poseidon, claiming that through his father Ariston, the demigods were his predecessors were Codrus and Melanthus. I couldn't find too much on either one of them though, so sure, Plato. You can be a descendant of Poseidon too, I guess. More power to you. Whatever you want, Plato. Sure. So Poseidon, besides just having the lovers, also had those who were his victims. Obviously, Odysseus would be on here, but this isn't about him. This isn't about him yet. The Odyssey can wait. So we gotta talk about the most popular one first. Medusa. If you don't know the story, slight content warning on this. Actually, trigger warning for this whole segment, honestly. So until this disappears, just know that what we're talking about is potentially sensitive content. I'll give this warning again every few, like right before I mention anything. Because ancient Greece fucked up. If you didn't know that by now, I'm sorry to tell you this, but ancient Greece is fucked up. So, of course, we got to talk about the most popular one, Medusa. This is more of a Roman tale, apparently, written by Ovid, but Medusa was a maiden who caught Poseidon's attention. So he took advantage of her while in the temple of Athena. Athena was disgusted that her holy temple was sullied, and thus cursed Medusa in becoming the Gorgon we all know and love. There's some takes where Athena gave it to her as a way to protect herself from Poseidon. And while that's a nice idea, no, she just punished the victim in the original telling. There was another mortal woman whose name was Tyro. She was married to the king and founder of Iolcus, known as named Cethyrus, or Cretheus. However, she was obsessed with Enipeus, the river god. She pursued him, and since Poseidon was lusting after Tyro, he disguised himself as Enipeus to sleep with her, leading to the birth of Peleus and Neleus of Iolcus. These two will eventually play a vital role when we talk about Jason and the Argonauts, but for now, we're gonna leave them. We're gonna leave them be. Yeah, I'm a Milg. Man, I love Gorgons. Me too. We all gotta be Milgs sometimes. But yeah, so this woman was completely tricked by Poseidon that... we also talked about Demeter. I didn't even write a note for that because we talked about Demeter earlier, what Poseidon did to her. So yeah, Tyr thought it was the river god. It was not the river god that she was sleeping with. So some of you might have seen this meme if you're in the same circles that I'm in, about how there's a trans man in Greek mythology granted a wish by Poseidon to be turned into a man and got some iron skin thrown as a freebie and went on to become a magnificent hero. I'm here to tell you that Canis is not the trans icon we all want him to be. So Canis was originally born a woman, and she was walking along the beach one day, but Poseidon spotted her, grabbed her, and took advantage of her. After having his way, Poseidon was so satisfied and enjoyed it so much that he offered Canis a wish. She was so traumatized by the whole ordeal that she asked to be turned into a man, so she could never be hurt like that again. It's not, oh cool, Poseidon's pro-trans, let go. It's actually a whole ass tragedy. Classic ancient Greek behavior. Canis not the trans icon we want him to be. I loved that post when I first saw it, so when I found out the full version of the story, I'm just like, ooh, that's horrible. Yike. Poseidon's fucked up. Poseidon's no better than the rest of them. Sorry to tell you all this. If you like Poseidon, I understand. I also thought he was cooler than the rest of them. No, he's just fucked up. He's just fucked up. There was also another woman named Corone who almost had this happen to her exact same way. She was walking along the shore, spotted by Poseidon, and he tried to court her, but she rejected him and ran off. Poseidon pursued her. Athena supposedly spotted them and turned Corone into a crow to protect her. I like to think Athena was like, well, Poseidon's about to sully another one. Let me just go ahead and spare us some time. Boom, snap, crow. That's how I like to think it went down. It wasn't actually a, oh, I'll save you. If it was, then she'd do something about Poseidon. I mean, you can't really do that, but crow's not the answer. That doesn't help them really. But yeah, this next one is also a twofer. for both why Poseidon and Zeus are pieces of shit. At one point, Zeus was pursuing the goddess Asteria with very bad intentions. So Asteria transformed into a quail and flung herself deep into the ocean. She didn't know Poseidon was equally a scoundrel as his brother, and then found herself having to fend off Poseidon. To do so, she actually transformed into a rocky island, which we all know today as being Delos. Yep, the birthplace of Apollo was essentially the corpse of a victim of Zeus and Poseidon. Greek mythology is wild. To make this shit kid-friendly, it takes a lot of gutting. And I love the fucked upness. And that is the end of that! So yes, now I have these memes to show you all. So yeah, with that done, is this all gonna be on the test? Absolutely. I will test you all at the end. Like, oh yeah, here, there's these tales of great heroes and magnificent things that happened in Greek mythology. And then you look a little bit closer, you lean in just a little bit. And suddenly there's ancient Alabama all over the place.